Hello and welcome to this bonus episode of Pulp Kitchen. If you're joining us, perhaps you've watched or listened to episode 123 from this week, 123, where we talked about Ripley, the new series on Netflix, and also Civil War, Alex Garland's new movie. Today, we're going to be talking about The First Omen, but first, we're going to be talking about Scoop, the new Netflix film about the infamous Prince Andrew interview. Can I just say something, by the way? A pet peeve of mine I've noticed in modern life, people often use the word infamous incorrectly.
It's not infamous.
It's not infamous. They'll just be like, this was infamously used by Vincent van Gogh. I'm like, what's infamous? You mean famous?
Yeah, just famous.
Infamously used by Hitler.
Yeah.
Famously used by Vincent van Gogh. But you know what I'm saying? Like, people are just like,
paintbrushes, famously used by Van Gogh.
Yes. Vincent van Gogh famously took off his ear. Even Vincent van Gogh infamously cut off his ear. I'm like, that's not even that infamous.
Mine is overusing the word literally when it isn't literal.
Oh, yeah, I mean that all the time.
It's just a way to exclaim. It's literally the thing. Yeah. And I'm like, it's not.
Literally. That's very school teachery of you. Stop saying like as well.
Yeah.
Like what? Although one time I got corrected on it at school. I've thought about this for years, and I was like, I was correct to use like in that scenario. He asked us what this type of fruit was, and I said, is it like a berry? And he went, the thing is about people your age is you're all saying like, is it like this? But I was like, I was asking, there I just did it. Sorry, I just did it. But I was saying, is it like a berry? As in, I know it is not a berry, but it is similar to a berry. Is it alike to a berry?
Write him a letter.
Probably dead
Cut
now.
out different letters from different magazines.
I'm still thinking about it.
Student, yeah.
What's your favorite type of simile?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, Scoop. Let's do Scoop first.
Scoop.
So, as the world will know, back in 2019, there was a major news story.
Infamous.
It wasn't. That was infamous, I suppose, because someone. Yes. Anyway, back to it. Sorry. Let's start again.
Paused you there.
Scoop. So everyone will remember in 2019 when Prince Andrew delivered an interview with BBC Newsnight about his relationship and friendship with the disgraced and infamous financier Jeffrey Epstein, about his knowledge of Epstein's activity, his inappropriate behavior as a sex trafficker, actually convicted sex offender, Jeffrey Epstein.
Long association.
Let's call a spade, convicted sex offender, Jeffrey Epstein. And this was all happening in late 2019. I'm trying to work it. The interview happened after Epstein had died. Is that correct? Yes. Yes, that's right. And it was all a flurry of activity. And Prince Andrew had this interview.
Long interview,
hour long.
Minutes, hour
it's long. And for international audiences, people should know that Newsnight is a huge bastion of the BBC. It's like 60 Minutes in the US. It's a huge thing, and it was famously a car crash interview that and resulted in Prince Andrew being stepped back from his royal duties and being stripped of his royal titles. And it was an incredible embarrassment for the royal family, for him, and just worldwide. That was also celebrated as a feat of journalism. It's one of those famous interviews like Frost Nixon. It's just going to go down in the history of that. And Emily Maitlis quite rightly got a lot of credit as the journalist conducting that interview. But there's more to that story, which is how did that interview even come to take place? Because a lot of the questions people asked when that interview happened was, why has he done this? Why has he exposed himself so fully, no pun intended, to in 60 Minutes interview with the BBC? And this Scoop follows the story of Sam McAllister, based on her novel, her book about the story. Not a novel, sorry, but her story about the interview called Scoops, how they pulled off the most major interview in history, which is she was a booker at the BBC. And what makes the story significant, of course, is that, and I'm trying to explain this as well for international audiences in case a lot of it doesn't translate, but it's like, the BBC, you've got two institutions in this story, two massive British institutions, which is on the one hand the BBC and the other hand the royal family. And this is at a time when the BBC is being squeezed, it's being asked about its role, it's being having to make cutbacks, it's fighting to justify
Still to this day.
And still to this day,
even more.
which is because the BBC has been sort of bizarrely politicized. And actually, if anyone wants to hear a really interesting case about how the BBC operates and why it's become the political football it has, listen to the Rest is Entertainment
great podcast.
episode where Marina and Richard talk about the BBC in its current state. But anyway, back in 2019, when things were changing, Emily Maitlis, who at the time was the presenter of Newsnight, and Newsnight, along with things like Panorama, are the kind of cutting-edge hard news journalism, investigative journalism, and reporting element.
Difficult, challenging interviews, asking the hard questions.
Yes. So
famous by Jeremy Paxman in his era of Newsnight, but then obviously moving on to
So Sam McAllister, working as a booker, is being tired of trotting out the same stories for the news when she.
Oh, so she doesn't know she's about to lose her job. They've announced that they're going to make redundancies across the BBC right when this is happening.
But not, she hasn't been told she's going to be made.
No, but she feels like she's on the verge of losing her job. The spectre
of redundancies hangs over everyone.
Yeah.
And she manages to, for initially a completely different reason, bridge a piece of contact with the press secretary for Prince Andrew about a minor bit of business promotion that he's doing. And as the heat from the Epstein scandal unfolds and has a knock-on effect on Prince Andrew, the palace and the BBC become closer and closer, and they're trying to lock down what we know will become the big interview. You also have Emily Maitlis, played by Gillian Anderson. You have the producer, played by Romola Gary, the head of Newsnight. You also have the actual producer of the show, a man, I can't remember his name.
Rufus Sewell as Prince
Rufus
Andrew.
Sewell playing Prince Andrew.
Really lost into
complete
Andrew.
prosthetics. You also have Connor Swindles as a kind of sort of prologue character, as this photographer, British photographer in New York,
getting that
tabloid
photo
journal
of them
with a
in Central
telephoto
Park.
lens, trying to get the photos of Prince Andrew and Epstein together.
Keely Hawes, who plays his...
Keely Hawes, thank you, playing the press secretary to Prince Andrew. And that's the kind of state of play. And like I said, it is a significant moment in British history, which still feels very, very recent, even though it's 5 years ago now, when you had these two institutions coming together and you had a prince on air publicly humiliating himself, crashing his own car, and Scoop is the story of how... if Scoop is the interview was Prince Andrew driving his car off a cliff, this is the story of how they built the ramp for him to drive away. Okay?
Yeah.
That's the setup. Billy Piper plays Sam McAllister. Good solid cast.
I love Billy Piper. She's great.
Yeah, absolutely. James, have I missed anything out?
No, I think you've set up it very well. I'm sure most people know this interview and have watched it. But it's
an hour 45. It's on Netflix. I think a lot of people thought it was going to be a series.
I thought it was going to be a series. And almost watching it, I'm like, structurally, you could imagine it have been like a sort of mini 3-parter, but no, it's totally fine, sort of an hour-long film. Yeah, you know what's interesting is that since the Epstein scandal, there's been such a huge consumption and so many things produced, whether it was the extensive Netflix documentary on Jeffrey Epstein, other stories relating to that specific moment and people coming forward.
And some other famous names involved.
Oh my God, the list. Have you seen the list? Oh, it's good. It's so good. Stephen Hawking.
He's on the list. Say that
he's on the list. Dead. He's on the list.
I'm trying to cover us. You can say that because he's dead,
and he's on the list. Yeah.
Apparently,
I've not said anything.
How do you know he's on the list?
The list is public. You can see it now.
What, Flight Manifest for?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's so many great people on it.
Okay.
It's brilliant.
I'm the lawyer part of my brain is panicking. Just to make sure we don't get.
It's all right. Both our partners are lawyers. We're covered. You can't afford to take us down. We have free legal. And I almost felt like I know everything about this story. And I think coming into this is the story of the story and how the story got told. And I feel like there was also a documentary on this story that had come out that I think I'd seen parts of, where Sam McAllister was a talking head and Emily Maitlis was talking about the main revelation of this is not just the interview and the way in which Andrew conducts himself in that interview, but the fact that, his press secretary and Andrew himself really thought that they had a bloody great interview. And it was all very well, actually. I think we're having quite a good time.
The arrogant naivety.
And it really shows that the institution of the royal family through Andrew and his press secretary were just almost completely ineffectual, soft, out of touch. And that's where I think the strength lies in just seeing how they allowed this to happen, and the sense of urgency that they felt when they finished taking the cards and transporting what was clearly like a goldmine of an interview. What I liked about it, I think all the cast are great. I think they really deliver. As we said, Billie Piper clearly having fun in that character. Gillian Anderson, just really strikingly accurate. Emily Maitlis. I listen. Did you not think so?
Not in her voice, no.
Oh, I thought it was really well done.
The voice does not sound like Emily Maitlis.
Oh, right. So I listened to The News Agents, which is Emily Maitlis' like spin-off podcast, and I thought, oh my god, really feels and sounds like her. But as you said, Rufus Sewell really lost in there. I think what is like probably what I'm lacking from it is more to the story than I kind of didn't already know. So I sort of came out of it being like, yeah, that's another nice dramatization of that story, and I got what I needed out of it. I wasn't that gripped. I wasn't that infatuated with it. It was entertaining. Something about Sam McAllister's character to me is a little bit cringy. So
the character,
the character, like
we've seen her talk in person. She's really cool.
She's really cool, and I think she's definitely this. She's like a power producer who's now going to be well known for the rest of her life for this interview. But I almost felt like, I'm a TV booker, and I've got nails and rings.
Well, she's meant to be different. She's outside the,
And you don't like my methods may be unorthodox, but damn it, I get results. It was a little bit of a character like that, and I just not because Billie Piper delivers it in that way. I just feel like the cliche of the character. Funnily enough, when I did work in TV, the talent bookers and the celebrity bookers, they are all dressed like that to the nines, like very stylized, nice bag, nice coat, very made up, very well done. But nice, not like overly taken by it, but a solid entertaining journey, especially if you've not been paying attention to the Prince Andrew stuff. I love it. And you'll get to relive the highlights of the worst things he says.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think it's kind of like fine, solid, but pretty unremarkable, to be honest. Yeah. It's like the TV movie highlight of the week. And then as we go forward, I think most people will forget it.
Come and go. Bit sleepy.
Yeah, it's. I think they stretched it out, to be honest. Actually, some people said, they thought it could be a series, but I'm like, I feel like they got me all I could.
Yeah.
They really, I mean, look, like Sam McAllister, I appreciate that they probably wanted to substantiate the fact that she was a single mum working at the time, couldn't have done this without the support of her mother. Yeah. Actually, it's women who mainly brought this story together on the press secretary side, on the producer's side, Emily Maitlis. But I'm like, I don't need to know about her son's love life at school. No. That stuff, cut. Could have been one sentence. I don't need to have several scenes devoted to that.
Yeah.
We're all here for the interview. So I think it was kind of a little bit unremarkable in that sense. I think that for me, Gillian Anderson didn't sound like Emily Maitlis, but that's not a problem. Because she looked close enough to it. She doesn't have to, but also she sounded like a news broadcaster. Yeah. The bizarre thing I had is that I like Rufus Sewell, and I think he did a good job playing Prince Andrew. But at the beginning, in particular, I was like, you don't sound like Prince Andrew. And not only do you not sound like Prince Andrew, you don't actually sound like a prince. He actually spoke
a bit too rough.
Too gruff. He sounded like, at best, the general manager of your local John Lewis, right? Not an insult against John Lewis, don't get me wrong, but it's like, he did not sound like the son of the Queen.
Yeah.
Prince Andrew, especially in that interview, you hear him, he is posh and he is refined.
No,
it was a shooting party.
It was a shooting party.
But actually, shooting weekend. It's a standard shooting weekend. Rufus Sewell plays him a little bit too gruff, I think, which is strange. But on the whole, other than that, Rufus Sewell is very good in it. And the prosthetics are very...
not that they should, but they do not do kind to Prince Andrew. Like, there's a scene where he's interacting with someone who cleans his room and arranges his cuddly toys on his bed. And I mean, it's over for that.
I mean, literally, there's a bit where you catch him literally with his trousers down.
When's that?
Out in the bath.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yeah. I forgot about
that. I think, so the stuff building up to the interview, I think the whole film, this is the strength and weakness of the film, is that the whole thing, I think, is saved by having the interview included, because we're all waiting for that. But the problem is, obviously, a lot of us have already seen that.
You've seen the clips
it's
over
a slight
and over.
rehash, re-highlight. But what is great is that when they do play it out, and being given the hour of context you've had beforehand, and knowing that you've got other people in the room watching the monitors, is that, so I watched it with Anna and my friend Louis, and we all know that interview very well, but when it did get to that interview, we were watching it through our hands and squirming, because it is unbelievably uncomfortable and funny how often he just steps into bear traps. And
when he's speaking, you feel like he's really out mastering the questions, and like he's got the perfect answer that's irrefutable evidence.
Didn't get it.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's that arrogant naivety and the way that Maitlis and her team together, it's a whole team effort, skillfully gave him enough space to, that old phrase, give him enough rope to hang themselves. And they did. And, that was the most entertaining part, seeing the rehash of
There's like questions where she asked him about, I mean, it's kind of just reviewing the original interview now, but questions when she asked him, it's after he'd been convicted as a sex offender, he then went to go and stay at his residence in New York. It's like, did you not think as a member of the royal family it would be slightly inappropriate at that time to stay with him? And he just didn't understand that whole bridge and he offered me to shoot him again.
But also that wasn't me because I don't sweat because I had a condition, and it's just unbearable.
To this day, I feel like every summer almost for the rest of time there is going to be that clip cut when every time we have a heat wave in the UK, it'll be that clip cut to the weather being told it's 35 degrees and then the Curb Your Enthusiasm music playing because you know he's just going to be sweating.
Anyway, I mean, so I that's the thing.
We're kind of just reviewing the original.
We are. This is the thing is that when we came in today, we probably were thinking of originally reviewing this in our main episode this week, but we don't. What we found with the film is solid and interesting as it is. It's not actually that remarkable. We don't actually have that much to say about it. It doesn't give you as much as it should have been. It's playing the highlights.
Yeah. It's almost a greater story behind, especially since 2019, like the way in which media and TV has become drastically defunded. And it, obviously what's sort of, not out of their control, but what's harder to reckon with is the shift of attention and eyes to the internet, which has meant, I think it's 89% of people in TV recently are not working, and I'm talking like daytime TV, not not daytime TV, like terrestrial TV, not drama. There's a huge unemployment rate there now. Loads of my peers who used to work in TV are either not working or have shifted into commercial branded content. So you take that and you go, well, it's clearly really important that we have resources like the BBC and just news in general to get the stories that need to be told, and without that it will not happen. I think that's probably like a better angle that is more interesting to me about where the landscape is changing.
There's a bit towards the end which I found quite funny because the revelations coming out and it's being Prince Andrew's having his title stripped and everything, and Billie Piper's walking through Leicester Square and everyone's got their phone out and they're filming the news footage on the big screen, and I was like, no one would film that on their phone. No, that's not something people film on their phone. No. That's not interesting to the passing public. It's that no one gets their phone and goes, oh look, I'm going to take a video of Prince Andrew's news headline. Yeah. I was like, that's such a movie moment, TV movie. It's actually it's a pretty good, solid TV movie because it comes out on Netflix. There's no distinction between that and the rest. So,
it's kind of juicy. It's a little bit gossipy if you're into that. But check it out. It's not bad.
Scoop.